How to improve focus and concentration. Why do we struggle to focus these days? Well, to understand how we are, we need to understand how we got here. The struggle for focus is way older than the smartphone, way older. Let's go back to 2,300 years ago. To Athens, a philosopher named Plato is complaining about the youth. Seriously, he was worried about the newest, most distracting technology of his era. And that was writing. That's right. Plato feared that if people started writing things down, they would, and I quote, cease to exercise their memory and become forgetful. He thought his new-tangled technology will make people's mind weak. Does that sound familiar? Fast forward to the 15th century, Jonas Gutenberg invented the printing press, and suddenly books aren't just for priests and princes. For the first time in history, the average person is flooded with information. Scholars of the time wrote about the stress of too many books and the anxiety of knowing there were more to read than any person ever could. This was the first real era of information overload, and the human response was to develop new skills. We learned to scheme, to prioritize, and to focus on one book at a time. Our brains adapted. And now the 20th century. Welcome to the telegraph, the radio, and finally the television. They brought the world into our rooms, but they were still mostly broadcast media. You consumed them, we didn't interact with them. Then came the internet, and then the smartphone. This was different. This wasn't a flood of information anymore. This was a tsunami, and it wasn't passive. It was designed to be irresistible. The game changed. We are no longer just consumers of information. We are the product. Our attention is the resource being sold. We are not just drowning in water. There are brilliant engineers on the shore designing ever-powerful platforms to keep our attention. But to fight back, we need to understand the battlefield. And that battlefield is right here. And so what actually happening in our brain when you try to focus? Let's break it down into simple terms so you can understand. Imagine your brain as two main characters in the story of focus. First, meet the CEO, the prefrontal cortex. This is the part right behind your forehead. It is responsible for the executive functions like making decisions, planning, and most important for us, directing our attention. It is deliberate, logical, but also it gets really easily tired. It's like a high-performance engine that guzzles mental fuel. The CEO has a team of chemical messengers that help it out. The big one is dopamine. We often call it the feel-good chemical, but for focus, it's better to think of it as the motivation molecule. It is the chemical of anticipation. It is what makes you want to pursue a goal. Low dopamine doesn't mean you are sad. It means you cannot be bothered to care. And now, let's meet the other character, the default mode network, or DMN. Think of this as the intern. The DMN is active when you are not focused on the outside world. It is the daydreamer, the mind wanderer. It is active when you are in the shower and you suddenly have a brilliant idea, or when you are driving and suddenly realize you've missed your exit. It is crucial for creativity and memory consolidation. But here is the important part. The CEO and the intern are on a seesaw. And so for you to be focused on a task, your CEO, which is the prefrontal cortex, has to be in charge, actively suppressing the intern, which is the DNN. When the mind starts to wander, that is the intern popping up and saying, hey, what's going on here? Can we check the Instagram? Every time you get a notification, a ping, here's what happens. A little hit of dopamine says, oh, something new has happened. Your CEO has to disengage from the active work you're doing. It spends energy processing the interruption, and then it has to drag your attention back to the original task. This context switching has a real measurable cost. Studies call it attention residue. The part of your brain is still thinking about that notification, making your focus on the main task shallow. And the biggest myth of all is multitasking. Neuroscience is crystal clear. Your brain cannot perform two attention-demanding tasks at once. What it's actually doing is task switching, is toggling back and forth at high speed, and every single switch burns fuel, creates more attention residue, and makes you exponentially more likely to make mistakes. It is the most efficient way I know to do bad work and feel exhausted doing it. So when you feel drained after a day of multitasking, it is not your head, it is your prefrontal cortex. Your CEO is burnt out and the intern is running the show. Science lesson is over. How do you actually build this thing back? We are going to attack this from 3 angles: your environment, your brain, and your body. Step 1 is to hack your environment, the low-hanging fruit. You cannot win a war of willpower against a $1 trillion tech industry. Don't even try. Instead, change the battlefield. Make focus the easiest possible option and distraction the hardest. By creating the phone Sabbath, your phone is the #1 source of interruption. When you need to do deep work, you need to make it invincible and inaccessible. Not putting it face down on your desk. You will still feel the vibration and see the notification. Not turning it on do not disturb mode. You can still see it, but put it in another room or lock it in a drawer. Out of sight is out of mind. The physical barrier is key. This single habit will add years of focus time to your week. The next is to design a focus sanctuary. Your environment primes your behavior. Dedicate a space. If you can, have a specific chair or desk for deep work. Your brain will learn this is the focus place or palace. Use headphones if you can, even if you don't play music. They are universal do not disturb sign. Step number 2 is to train your muscle, the mental gym. Focus is a muscle, and like any muscle, it gets stronger with consistent training. You have to exercise the CEO and teach the intern when it is time to work. Try the Pomodoro technique, the focused bootcamp. This is the simplest and most effective way to start. Set a timer for 25 minutes. During this time, you work on one thing with intense, undivided attention. When the timer goes off, take a mandatory 5 minutes break. Get up, look away from the screen, stretch, get some water. Repeat. This works because it respects the limited fuel tank of your prefrontal cortex. It's a sprint and not a marathon. You are not asking your brain to focus for 4 hours. You are just asking it to focus for 25 minutes. And try mindfulness meditation, the CEO weightlifting. And this is the most powerful long-term tool. Meditation is not about clearing your mind, but also noticing when your mind has wandered and gently bringing it back to what you're doing. That is literally a rep for your focus muscle. You are noticing the intern, the DMN, has taken over, and you are consciously re-engaging the CEO, the PFC. So start with a 5 minutes per day. Use apps like Headspace or Waking Up for a guided intro. Define your what and why. Your brain resists focusing on vague tasks. Define what gets done and allocate time to get it done. Specifically, give your CEO a clear target. The why gives your dopamine system a reason to care. And step number 3 is to fuel your body, the hardware upgrade. You can have the best strategy in the world, but if your brain hardware is running on junk fuel or no sleep, you will lose. Protect sleep like your life depends on it, because your focus does. Sleep is not a downtime, it's an essential maintenance. During sleep, your brain clears out metabolic waste, including toxins that impair cognitive function. Again, it consolidates memory, moving them from short-term to long-term storage, and this literally makes space in your working memory for new information. So prioritize 7 to 9 hours of sleep. A tired brain has a weak CEO, and a hyperactive intern is a recipe for distraction. Again, move your body. Aerobic exercise like running, cycling, brisk walking, they all boost blood flow to the brain, delivering oxygen and nutrients to the essential part. It also releases the BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is like a fertilizer for your brain cells. Even a 10 minutes walk can reset your attention and provide a clarity boost. Be smart with caffeine and food. Caffeine is a fantastic focus aid because it blocks adenosine, the chemical that makes you feel tired, but use it strategically. Don't guzzle it all day. Have it before a focus block and then stop so you can sleep later. On food, avoid heavy, high sugar, high carb meals before important mental work. The energy crash that follows is a focus killer. Opt for protein and healthy fat for sustained energy. Building back your focus isn't a 30-day hack. It's a lifelong practice. It's a series of small, consistent choices. You will have days where the intent wins, and that is okay. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is awareness. The goal is to slowly, over time, strengthen your CEO so you can run the show more often. You are not powerless against the distraction economy. You have a brain capable of incredible depth and concentration. You just have to create the condition for it to thrive. If this video helped you understand the brain a little better, then do me a huge favor. Hit the like button. It really helps the channel. Subscribe to my channel for more videos on self-improvement and psychology, and leave a comment below. We love to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.